Animals like you don't fly first class." The senior flight attendant hissed, her open palm cracking across the 6-year-old's face. Colorful beads scattered across the cabin floor as little Lily clutched her stinging cheek, her pink butterfly backpack violently torn from her shoulders. While 30 grown adults sat in silence, watching a child's valid boarding pass get shredded into confetti, the flight attendant stood tall, confident she had just put a scammer in her place. What she didn't know, and what would systematically dismantle her 25-year career in exactly 11 minutes, was that the terrified girl sobbing on the floor was the daughter of the billionaire who owned the very airplane they were standing on. Lily Walker was 6 years old, and she had never flown alone before. She walked through the jet bridge of Skyway Airlines Flight 612 at Dallas/Fort International Airport, clutching a pink backpack covered in butterfly patches. Her grandmother had braided her hair that morning into 2 perfect braids with colorful beads that clicked softly when she moved her head. She wore a yellow sundress, white sneakers with crayon doodles on the sides, and an unaccompanied minor tag hanging from a lanyard around her neck. A gate agent named Maria had walked her to the aircraft door and handed her paperwork to the crew. Maria had knelt down and said, "You're going to do great, Lily. Your daddy's waiting in New York with chocolate cake." Lily had smiled so big her missing front tooth showed. "I know," he promised. Maria handed the unaccompanied minor documents to the first crew member she saw, a tall woman with hair pulled back so tight it stretched the skin at her temples. The woman's name tag read, "Donna Kessler, Senior Flight Attendant." "She's in 2A," Maria said. "First class. Father purchased the ticket. All the paperwork is in order." Donna took the documents without looking at Maria. She was looking at Lily. Her eyes moved from the child's simple yellow dress to her crayon-covered sneakers to the pink backpack with its butterfly patches. Something shifted behind her eyes. Something cold. "I'll take it from here," Donna said. Maria squeezed Lily's shoulder and left. Lily looked up at Donna and held out her boarding pass. "I'm in seat 2A, ma'am. My daddy bought me a first-class ticket because it's my first time flying by myself, and he wanted me to be comfortable." Donna took the boarding pass. She studied it the way a person studies something they've already decided is fake. She flipped it over, held it up to the light, flipped it again. "Where's your parent?" Donna asked. "My daddy's in New York. He's waiting for me at the airport. My grandma dropped me off here in Dallas, and your grandmother bought this ticket. My daddy bought it on his computer. I watched him do it." Donna looked at the boarding pass one more time, then looked at Lily one more time, and the judgment that crossed her face was so obvious that even a child could see it. "Sweetheart, there's been a mistake. This seat isn't yours." Lily's eyebrows came together in confusion. "But it says 2A. That's what my daddy said. 2A. Your daddy was wrong. Or somebody made an error in the system. It happens." Donna's voice had that syrupy tone adults use when they're lying to children and don't care if the child knows it. "Let me take you to the back of the plane where there's a nice seat waiting for you. But my ticket says first class. Honey, first class tickets cost $2,000. Do you know how much money that is?" Lily nodded. "My daddy has lots of money. He said it's okay." Donna's nostrils flared. She turned and called down the aisle. "Greg, I need you up here now." Cabin manager Greg Holloway came from the back of the first-class section. He was a heavy-set man in his 50s with a permanent expression of mild irritation, like the world was always slightly disappointing him. He'd worked with Donna for 8 years, and in all that time, he'd never once questioned her judgment. That was his first mistake. It would not be his last. "What's the problem?" Donna held up Lily's boarding pass and tilted her head toward the child, the way someone might gesture toward a stray cat that wandered in from the street. "System error. Somebody booked a kid in first class. Look at her, Greg. Obviously not a first-class passenger." Greg glanced at Lily. His eyes did the same scan Donna's had done. Yellow sundress, crayon sneakers, pink butterfly backpack, black skin. "Move her to economy," he said, "if there's a seat. But that's my seat." Lily's voice rose for the first time. Not a scream, not a tantrum. The desperate protest of a child who knows something unfair is happening and doesn't have the words to fight it. My daddy bought me that seat. You can call him. His number is in my backpack. We're not calling anyone, Donna said. We're boarding 300 passengers, and we don't have time for this. Come with me. Donna reached for Lily's arm, not gently. She grabbed it the way you'd grab someone you were pulling out of somewhere they didn't belong. Her fingers dug into the soft skin above Lily's elbow. Ow, you're hurting me. Stop making a scene, Donna hissed, leaning close enough that only Lily could hear. Little girls who lie about tickets get in big trouble. Is that what you want? You want to get in trouble. Lily's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't move. She planted her sneakers on the carpet and pulled her arm back, not with violence, with the stubborn resistance of a child who had been told by the person she trusted most in the world that she had every right to be there. My grandma said, "I belong wherever my ticket says I belong." That sentence, spoken in the high, clear voice of a 6-year-old, carried through the first-class cabin like a bell. 12 passengers in first class heard it. Not one of them moved. Donna's face flushed red. It wasn't the words that angered her. It was the defiance. This child was refusing to obey her in her cabin in front of her passengers. "Give me your backpack," Donna commanded. "No, it's mine. My grandma gave it to me." I said, "Give it to me." Donna yanked the pink backpack off Lily's shoulders so hard one of the butterfly patches tore. Lily cried out and reached for it, and Donna held it above her head like a bully on a playground. "When you learn to follow rules, you'll get it back. Now move to the back of this plane." "I want my daddy," Lily screamed, and the sound of it, the raw terror of a child separated from everything safe, echoed through the aircraft. And that's when Donna Kessler slapped her open palm full force across the face of a 6-year-old girl. The crack of it was so loud the passenger in seat 3A later said he thought something mechanical had broken. Lily's head snapped to the right. Colored beads exploded from her left braid and scattered across the cabin floor, bouncing and rolling under seats like tiny marbles. The force of it knocked Lily sideways into the armrest of seat 2B. She caught herself with one hand on the leather, the other hand going to her face. For 3 full seconds, there was no sound on that airplane. None. 300 people breathing, and not one of them made a noise. The air itself seemed to freeze. Then Lily touched her cheek. She looked at her fingers as if expecting to see blood. The handprint was already rising on her dark skin, red and vivid shaped, exactly like the hand of the woman who put it there. Her bottom lip trembled. Her chin shook. But Lily Walker, 6 years old, flying alone for the first time, did not fall down, did not run, did not hide. She looked up at Donna Kessler with wet brown eyes and said, "That was mean. My daddy's going to be so upset with you." Donna pointed at the torn pieces of the boarding pass on the floor. "Your daddy can call customer service now. Pick up your fake ticket and get out of my first-class cabin." In seat 1, see a woman with perfectly highlighted blonde hair and a phone already recording lean toward her screen. Tiffany Blake, 800,000 followers across platforms. Content creator, influencer, professional spectator. "Oh my God, you guys," Tiffany whispered into her phone, her live stream already pushing out to 200 viewers. "You are not going to believe what I'm witnessing right now. This little girl just tried to take a first-class seat with a fake ticket, and the flight attendant is not having it. I mean, honestly, where are this child's parents who sends a kid to pull a scam like this?" The comments started immediately. "Teach her now or she'll grow up entitled. Flight attendant is a queen. Zero tolerance. Where is CPS? This is neglect. Imagine sending your kid to steal a first-class seat." The viewer count climbed from 200 to 400 to 600 in less than a minute. Tiffany kept whispering her commentary like a nature documentary narrator, watching a predator take down prey, never once considering that she had the predator and the prey. Confused, Greg Holloway stepped forward not to help Lily, but to manage what he saw as a disruption. "Donna, get her out of here. We board in 20 minutes and I don't want first-class passengers seeing this when they arrive." "She won't move," Donna said, as if Lily's refusal to be assaulted and removed was a personal insult. "Then call security." Greg keyed his radio. "Ground control, this is flight 612. We need security at gate 38B. We have an uncooperative juvenile passenger. Possible fraudulent ticket requesting immediate assistance." Lily was still standing in the aisle. Her beads were still scattered on the floor. Her backpack was still in Donna's hand. The handprint was still on her face, and the tears were rolling now quiet and steady down her cheeks and off her chin and onto the yellow sundress her grandmother had ironed that morning, while telling her, "You walk in there with your head high, baby girl." She wasn't walking anywhere. She was standing her ground in a way that should have made every adult on that plane ashamed of themselves. "Please," Lily whispered. "Can I just call my daddy? Please? His phone number is in my backpack. He'll tell you. He bought my ticket. He did. The only call being made is to security." Greg said, "Sit down on the floor and wait." Lily Walker, 6 years old, sank to the floor of the first-class aisle and hugged her knees to her chest. Her scattered beads lay around her like confetti from a party nobody was having. She snorts, pressed her face against her knees, and whispered so quietly that only the passenger in 2B could hear her. "Daddy said I'm brave. Daddy said I'm brave. Daddy said I'm brave." The passenger in 2B was a white woman named Catherine, traveling with her 2 children, ages 5 and 7. Both of her children were in first class. Nobody had questioned their tickets. Nobody had asked Catherine to prove she could afford their seats. Nobody had touched her children. Catherine heard Lily whispering and felt something twist in her stomach. She almost said something. She opened her mouth. She took a breath. Then Donna walked past and gave Catherine a look that said, "Don't get involved." And Catherine closed her mouth and pulled her own children closer and said nothing. That silence would haunt Catherine for years. Tiffany's live stream hit 2,000 viewers. She was zooming in on Lily sitting on the floor. "Okay, everyone look at this. She's literally sitting on the floor now, throwing a tantrum. This is what happens when parents don't teach their children boundaries. The flight attendant asked her nicely to move, and she refuses. The entitlement is unreal. She was either lying or she had watched a 6-year-old get slapped and genuinely believed the child was the problem. Either explanation was damning. The comments got worse. Some people's kids, honestly, that attendant deserves a bonus. Ban the whole family from flying. I would be so embarrassed if my child acted like this." None of them saw the handprint. Tiffany's camera angle carefully avoided it. Whether that was intentional or accidental, the effect was the same. The story being told to 2,000 strangers was not the story that was happening. Captain Frank Driscoll came out of the cockpit. 61 years old, silver hair, a chest full of decorations from 37 years of flying. The kind of man who walked into a room and expected everyone to notice. He looked at Lily on the floor, looked at Donna, and didn't ask a single question. "What's the holdup, Donna kid with a bad ticket won't move, Captain? Security's on the way. Is the ticket verified through the system?" Greg answered before Donna could. "We're running verification, but the system's backed up. 15 to 20 minutes. Driscoll checked his watch. "We push back in 22. Get her off the plane. If the ticket turns out to be good, rebook her on the next flight." "Yes, Captain." Not once did Frank Driscoll look at the red mark on Lily's face. Not once did he ask why a child was sitting on the floor crying. Not once did it occur to him that the 3 adults in charge of this situation might be wrong. He went back to his cockpit and closed the door. Lily heard the click of the cockpit door, and something in her broke a little more. She had been brave. She had stood her ground. She had asked politely. She had done everything her daddy and her grandma had told her to do, and none of it mattered. Every single adult had decided she was the problem. She started crying harder. Not screaming, not throwing herself on the floor, just crying the way children cry when they've run out of ways to make the world listen to them. A man in economy class about 20 rows back stood up from his seat to see what the commotion was. His name was David Chen. He was a middle school teacher from Houston flying to New York for a conference. From where he stood, he could see down the aisle straight into first class. He saw a little black girl in a yellow dress sitting on the floor, hugging her knees, crying. He saw a red mark on her face. He saw colored beads scattered around her. He saw 3 crew members standing over her like guards. David took out his phone and started recording. His angle was different from Tiffany's. His camera captured what Tiffany's carefully excluded: the handprint, the beads, the child alone on the floor, the adults towering over her. He didn't post it yet, but he would. And when he did, it would change everything. In the galley behind the curtain, Rachel Dunn stood with both hands pressed flat against the counter to keep them from shaking. 23 years old, 3 months on the job. Her dream since she was 15 was to fly, and now she was here, and she felt like she was going to throw up. She had watched everything. She had seen the slap. She had seen Donna rip the boarding pass. She had watched Lily sink to the floor. And every instinct in her body was screaming at her to do something, say something, step in. But Donna Kessler had gotten 3 junior flight attendants fired in the past year alone. One had contradicted Donna in front of a passenger about a meal substitution, gone the next week. One had reported Donna's treatment of a disabled passenger to management, gone within the month. One had simply mentioned to Greg that Donna seemed harsh with certain passengers, gone before the end of her probation. Rachel needed this job. Her mother was sick. The insurance from the airline was the only thing covering her treatment. If Rachel lost this position, her mother lost her doctor. But there was a 6-year-old girl sitting on the floor with a handprint on her face. Rachel picked up the crew tablet and opened the passenger manifest with trembling fingers. She scrolled to Seat 2, A. Walker Lily M. Seat 2, A. First Class. Ticket purchased by Walker M. Corporate Account, Skyway Holdings. Rachel stared at the screen. The ticket was real. The seat was legitimate. Lily Walker was supposed to be in 2A. She scrolled further. Corporate Account, Skyway Holdings. That wasn't a regular booking code. Corporate accounts were reserved for company executives and VIPs. Skyway Holdings was Rachel pulled out her personal phone and typed it in. Her eyes went wide. Skyway Holdings, parent company of Skyway Airlines, founded by Marcus Walker. She almost dropped her phone. Rachel poked her head out of the galley. Greg, I need to talk to you." Greg walked over, already irritated. "What, Rachel?" "I checked the manifest. The girl's ticket is real. It was purchased through a Skyway Holdings corporate account. Greg, I think her father might be Donna already verified the ticket is fraudulent. No, she didn't verify anything. She just looked at it and decided, Greg, the corporate account code is from Skyway Holdings. That's the parent company. If this girl's father is who I think, Rachel." Greg stepped close enough that she could smell his coffee breath. "You've been here 3 months. Donna has been here 25 years. She has more experience in her little finger than you have in your entire body. If Donna says the ticket is bad, the ticket is bad. Now get back in the galley. Keep your mouth shut and think very carefully about whether you want to have a job next week." He turned and walked away. Rachel stood there with the manifest still open on the crew tablet and the name Marcus Walker on her phone screen and a 6-year-old girl crying on the floor 15 feet away. She texted her boyfriend Marcus with shaking thumbs. "Something terrible is happening on my flight. They're hurting a little girl and nobody will listen to me. I'm scared." His reply came in 10 seconds. "Do the right thing, Ra. You'll never forgive yourself if you don't." Rachel closed her eyes. She took a breath. She was not ready for what she was about to do, but 6-year-old Lily Walker was not ready for any of this either, and Lily was still out there alone, afraid with a handprint on her face and her beads on the floor, and not a single person in the world standing up for her. Rachel squared her shoulders. Not yet, but soon. Out in the cabin, the departure board changed. Flight 612, departure in 18 minutes. Security was on the way. The handprint was darkening on Lily's cheek. Tiffany's live stream was climbing past 5,000 viewers. The hashtag Flight 612 had started trending locally in Dallas. David Chen's phone was recording from economy. Rachel Dunn was standing in the galley with a truth no one would listen to. And somewhere in Dallas, 20 minutes from the airport, Marcus Walker's phone was about to ring. Lily whispered into her knees again, so quiet no one heard her. Daddy said, "I'm brave." She had no idea that the next hour would prove her braver than anyone on that airplane. Meanwhile, somewhere in the back of the plane, a grandmother named Eloise Walker sat in her living room in Dallas, staring at her phone. Lily was supposed to text when she boarded. The text never came. Eloise called Lily's phone. No answer. Of course, no answer. Donna had taken Lily's backpack and Lily's phone was inside it. Eloise called the airline. "Thank you for calling Skyway Airlines. Your call is important to us. Please hold for the next available representative. Hold music." Tiny, cheerful, insulting hold music, while her grandbaby was alone on a plane and not answering. Eloise held for 4 minutes. She was transferred once. She was put on hold again. She was transferred to a department that didn't answer. She called back. She held again. 7 minutes now. 7 minutes of a grandmother's heart beating faster and faster, while a telephone system designed by people who never had to worry about their grandchildren played soft jazz in her ear. Finally, she reached a human being, a supervisor named Patricia Langford, Vice President of Operations. Patricia answered because the system had flagged Eloise's repeated calls. "Ma'am, I understand your concern. Can you give me the flight number and your granddaughter's full name, Flight 612, Dallas to New York? My grandbaby's name is Lily Marie Walker. She's 6 years old and she's flying alone, and she was supposed to text me when she got on that plane and she didn't, and nobody is telling me anything." Patricia typed the information into her system. Flight 612, passenger, Walker, Lily M. Seat 2, A corporate account, Skyway Holdings. Patricia's fingers stopped moving. She knew what that corporate code meant. Every senior executive at Skyway knew what that code meant. It was the personal account of Marcus Walker, the founder, the man who built the airline from one regional route into a national carrier, the man who owned 34% of the stock. The man whose face was deliberately never shown in any press release or public appearance because he believed in what he called invisible leadership. Ma'am Patricia said, her voice suddenly very different. "What is your relationship to Marcus Walker?" "He's my son, and Lily is his daughter. And if something has happened to that baby—" "Ma'am, I need you to stay on the line. I'm reaching the flight crew right now." Patricia keyed her radio. "Flight 612. This is VP Langford Priority Channel. Do not remove the passenger in Seat 2A. I repeat, do not remove the passenger in Seat 2A. Acknowledge immediately. Static." Then Greg's voice. Casual, almost bored. "Copy ground. We've got the situation handled. Standard boarding irregularity. Security en route. -612. You do not have the situation handled. That passenger is the radio cut to static." Greg had switched channels. Patricia stared at her console. Her hand was shaking. She keyed the radio again. "Flight 612. Respond immediately. This is a priority directive from corporate operations. Nothing." Greg had turned his radio volume down. Because corporate always overreacts, Patricia picked up her desk phone and dialed the one number she had prayed she would never have to dial under circumstances like these. Marcus Walker answered on the first ring. "Patricia." "What's wrong, Mr. Walker?" "It's about Lily. There's a situation on Flight 612. The pause that followed lasted exactly 2 seconds. But in those 2 seconds, every parent who has ever feared for their child knows what Marcus Walker felt. The floor dropping out, the world stopping, the oxygen leaving the room. "Tell me everything." "Sir, I don't have full details yet." The crew reported a boarding irregularity involving Seat 2A and requested security. "I radioed them to stand down, but they're not responding. Sir, I think they don't know who she is." "Where's my daughter right now?" "She's still on the aircraft, sir, at gate 38B. I'm 20 minutes away, sir." "Al," but Marcus Walker had already hung up. He was already in his car. He was already driving. And on Flight 612. Lily Walker was still sitting on the floor with her beads scattered around her and a handprint on her face, and a plane full of people who had decided without evidence, without verification, without a single moment of doubt that a 6-year-old black girl in a yellow sundress did not belong in first class. The departure board updated. Flight 612, departure in 14 minutes. Officer Ray Delgado appeared at the aircraft door. Airport police. Professional, experienced, a father himself to 2 daughters. He walked into first class and saw the scene, and something in his gut tightened. A little girl on the floor crying, a mark on her face, 3 crew members standing over her, a crowd of passengers watching like it was entertainment. "What's going on here?" Delgado asked. Donna stepped forward, immediately positioning herself between Delgado and Lily like a lawyer presenting her case. "Officer, we have an unaccompanied minor with a fraudulent first-class ticket. She refused to relocate to economy and became combative and disruptive. I had to physically restrain her for the safety of other passengers." Delgado looked past Donna to Lily, the girl on the floor, the handprint on her cheek. "Ma'am, did you hit this child?" "I restrained her. She was reaching into her bag and I didn't know what was in it. She's 6. Protocol doesn't have an age exception, officer." Something flickered behind Delgado's eyes. He didn't believe Donna. He'd been a cop for 12 years, and he knew what a rehearsed story sounded like. But he also knew that flight crews had authority on aircraft, and he'd been called here by the crew, not by the child. He knelt down next to Lily. This made him the first adult to get on her level since she'd been on the plane. The first adult to look her in the eyes. "Hey there, sweetheart, my name's Officer Ray. Can you tell me your name?" Lily looked at him through wet eyes. "Lily Walker." "Lily. That's a pretty name. Can you tell me what happened?" "The lady took my ticket and ripped it up. She took my backpack. I told her my daddy bought me the ticket, but she wouldn't listen. Then she hit me." Lily touched her cheek. "Right here." Delgado looked at the mark on her face. It was darkening by the minute, a clear handprint, an adult handprint on a child's face. He stood up and looked at Donna. "You struck a child. I corrected disruptive behavior in my cabin. You struck a child on the face. That's not corrective action, that's assault." Donna's eyes narrowed. "Officer, with all due respect, I've been doing this job for 25 years. I know how to handle difficult passengers. She's not a difficult passenger. She's a 6-year-old girl." Greg stepped in. "Officer, we appreciate your concern, but this is a crew matter. The child has a fraudulent ticket and needs to be removed from the aircraft so we can depart on schedule. Has the ticket been verified through the system?" Greg hesitated. "Verification is in progress, so you don't actually know the ticket is fraudulent. Donna's assessment is not verification." Delgado's voice hardened. He snorts looked at Lily again. "Lily, you said your daddy bought the ticket." "Yes, sir. His name is Marcus Walker. His phone number is in my backpack." She pointed at Donna. "She won't give it back." Delgado held out his hand to Donna. "Give me the child's backpack." "Officer, it could contain." "It's a pink backpack with butterflies on it. Give it to me now." Donna hesitated for one long second, calculating, then handed it over. Delgado knelt and opened it in front of Lily. Inside was exactly what you'd expect in a 6-year-old's bag. Crayons, a coloring book, a stuffed rabbit missing one ear, a juice box, and a laminated card with Daddy written in a child's handwriting and a phone number below. Delgado held up the card. Something about this was not what the crew had described. None of this was what the crew had described. Tiffany's live stream had hit 8,000 viewers. She was narrating breathlessly. "Okay, so the cops are here now and they're actually helping her look through the bag. Like, shouldn't they be removing her? This is exactly what's wrong with— Oh, wait, he's making a call." Delgado dialed the number on the laminated card. He put it on speaker. The cabin fell silent. 1 ring, 2 rings. "This is Marcus Walker." The voice that came through was deep controlled and carried the unmistakable weight of a man accustomed to authority. Delgado spoke clearly. "Mr. Walker, this is Officer Ray Delgado Dallas / Fort Police. I'm aboard Skyway Airlines, Flight 612, with a child who identifies herself as your daughter, Lily Walker. A pause. One heartbeat. Is my daughter hurt? Not, what happened? Not, what's the problem? Not, why are you calling? Is my daughter hurt? Delgado looked at the handprint on Lily's face. He looked at the little girl sitting on the floor of a first-class cabin surrounded by torn pieces of her boarding pass and scattered beads from her braids, and 3 crew members who had decided she was garbage. Mr. Walker, there has been an incident involving your daughter and a member of the flight crew. She has a visible mark on her face. The silence that followed was the kind of silence that precedes earthquakes. Put my daughter on the phone. Delgado handed the phone to Lily. Daddy. And that one word, Daddy, spoken in the trembling voice of a 6-year-old girl who'd been slapped and stripped of her belongings and forced to sit on a floor while grown adults laughed at her. That one word broke through every defense and pretense and prejudice in that cabin like a hammer through glass. Baby girl, are you okay? Tell Daddy what happened. Daddy, the lady hit me. She ripped up my ticket. She took my backpack. She said I don't belong in first class. She said my ticket was fake. I told her you bought it, but she wouldn't listen. Nobody would listen, Daddy. The pilot said to take me off the plane. Everyone was laughing. I tried to be brave like you told me, but her voice broke. Daddy, please come get me. Please. In a car speeding toward the airport, Marcus Walker gripped his steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. His eyes burned. His jaw was clenched so tight the muscles in his neck stood out like cables. His baby girl. Someone hit his baby girl. Lily. His voice was soft, steady. Everything a father's voice should be when his child is afraid. You are the bravest girl I know. You did nothing wrong. Nothing. Daddy is coming. Daddy is close. Can you give the phone back to the officer? Lily handed the phone back with both hands. The way children hold things that are important. Officer Delgado. Marcus Walker's voice had changed. The softness was gone. What replaced it was steel wrapped in fire. My name is Marcus Walker. I am the founder and majority owner of Skyway Airlines. I own the aircraft my daughter is sitting in. I pay the salary of every crew member on that flight, and in approximately 15 minutes, I will be standing at that gate. Do not let anyone touch my daughter again. Do not let anyone move my daughter, and do not let anyone leave that aircraft. Am I clear? Delgado's face changed. His professional composure cracked for just a moment as the full weight of what he just heard settled over him like a wave. Crystal clear. Mr. Walker, the line went dead. Donna Kessler was standing close enough to hear every word. She had heard founder and majority owner. She had heard, I own the aircraft. She had heard, I pay the salary. The blood drained from her face so fast she swayed on her feet. Snorts. Greg was staring at Delgado's phone as if it were a live grenade. Captain Driscoll's cockpit door was closed. He didn't know yet. He was about to. Tiffany Blake's live stream had captured the entire phone call. 12,000 viewers heard Marcus Walker's voice. 12,000 viewers watched the color leave Donna Kessler's face. The comments had already reversed. Wait, did he just say he owns the airline? That flight attendant hit the owner's daughter. Oh my God, she's finished. She's absolutely finished. And on the floor of the first-class cabin of Skyway Airlines, Flight 612, Lily Walker wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, looked up at Officer Delgado and said something that 12,000 people heard through Tiffany's live stream and 45 million people would eventually hear when David Chen's video went viral. I told her, my daddy owns the plane. The departure board changed. Flight 612 departure in 11 minutes. Marcus Walker was 7 minutes away. Donna Kessler grabbed the armrest of seat 1A to keep herself standing. Her legs had turned to water. Her mouth opened and closed twice before sound came out. That's not possible, she said. That's not Greg. That's not possible. Greg Holloway was staring at Officer Delgado's phone like it had just sprouted teeth. His face was gray. Sweat had broken out across his forehead in a thin, shining line. He said he owns the airline, Greg whispered. He said he owns the aircraft. It's a lie. Donna's voice was climbing, desperate, grasping at anything solid. People lie, Greg. Con artists say whatever they need to say. He's probably some deadbeat father who bought a stolen credit card. And Donna Delgado held up his phone. He had Googled the name during the call. The screen showed a Forbes article with a headline that hit Donna like a second slap. The Invisible Billionaire. How Marcus Walker built Skyway Airlines from nothing. Below the headline was a photograph of a black man in his early 40s. Strong jaw, kind eyes, the same eyes that were currently staring up at Donna from the face of the 6-year-old girl on the floor. Donna looked at the photo. She looked at Lily. She looked at the photo again. "Oh, God," she said. "Oh, my God." "Yeah," Delgado said quietly. "Oh, my God." 4:09 p.m., 10 minutes to departure. Tiffany Blake's live stream had become a wildfire. 14,000 viewers now, and the number was jumping by hundreds every few seconds. The comments had completely reversed from 5 minutes ago. People who had been cheering Donna were now tearing her apart. She hit the owner's daughter. That woman slapped a child and y'all were clapping. I literally watched this woman destroy a little girl's boarding pass and everyone cheered. I'm sick. Someone call the police. Oh, wait, they're already there. Donna Kessler is done. Tiffany was frantically trying to rebrand her narrative. Okay, you guys. So there's been a huge development. It turns out this little girl might actually be, we're getting reports that her father could possibly be connected to the airline in some way. And I just want to say that from the beginning, I thought something seemed off about how the crew was. The comments cut her down instantly. Girl, you literally said the flight attendant was a queen 5 minutes ago. We have screenshots, Tiffany. Delete all you want. You zoomed in on a crime child's face for content. Sit down. Tiffany kept streaming anyway. The viewer count was too good to stop. Greg pulled Donna into the galley, his hand gripping her elbow hard enough to leave marks. His voice was a frantic whisper. Donna, listen to me. We need to get ahead of this right now before he gets here. Get ahead of it. How Greg I slapped his daughter. I ripped up her boarding pass. I threw the pieces in her face. Keep your voice down. Greg's eyes darted toward the cabin. Passengers were murmuring. Phones were recording. Every word that carried beyond the galley curtain was ammunition. We say it was a misunderstanding. We say you followed standard protocol. We say the child was uncooperative and you used minimal physical intervention as a last resort. I slapped a 6-year-old across the face. Greg, you restrained a disruptive passenger who was leaching into an unverified bag. That's the story. That's the only story. Do you understand me? Donna was shaking so hard her teeth were clicking together. He's gonna fire me. He's gonna sue me. Greg, I hit his child. I hit a billionaire's child on camera in front of 15,000 people, which is exactly why we need to get our story straight right now. Rachel Dunn was standing 3 feet away behind the beverage cart. She heard every word, and something inside her that had been wavering all day finally clicked into place with the force of a deadbolt locking shut. She stepped out from behind the cart. There was no story to get straight. Greg spun around. Rachel, I told you to stay out of this. I watched her slap a child. Greg, I watched you call security on a 6-year-old with a valid ticket. I checked the manifest 20 minutes ago and told you the ticket was real and you threatened my job. That's not what happened. That's exactly what happened. And every word of it is going to come out because I took a screenshot of the manifest with a timestamp. And I am not going to stand here and help you build a lie around hitting a little girl. Greg's face went from gray to purple. You're fired. You don't have the authority to fire anyone right now, Greg. And honestly, I don't think you're going to have authority over anything for much longer. She pushed past him and walked into the cabin. She walked straight to Lily, who was still sitting on the floor with Delgado standing over her like a shield. Rachel knelt down. Lily, hi, sweetheart. My name is Rachel. I work on this airplane. I'm so sorry about what happened to you. Can I sit with you until your daddy gets here? Lily looked up at Rachel with swollen eyes. Her cheek was still red. Her braids were half undone where the beads had scattered. She studied Rachel's face the way children study adults when they're deciding whether this one is safe. "Are you going to hit me too?" Rachel's eyes filled with tears so fast she couldn't stop them. "No, baby. No, I am never going to let anyone hurt you again. I promise." Lily reached out and took Rachel's hand. Her small fingers wrapped around Rachel's palm and held on tight. The grip of a child who had finally found one safe person in a world of dangerous adults. 4:13 p.m., 7 minutes to departure. Patricia Langford's voice erupted from Greg's radio, which he could no longer pretend was malfunctioning because Officer Delgado was standing right there watching him. "Flight 612, this is VP Langford on Priority Channel. Respond immediately." Delgado looked at Greg. "Answer it." Greg keyed the radio with trembling hands. "This is Holloway Flight 612. Greg, I have been trying to reach you for 20 minutes. Did you receive my order to stand down regarding the passenger in 2? Greg closed his eyes. "The radio there was interference. Don't you dare lie to me right now. Marcus Walker is in his car. He will be at that gate in minutes. The board of directors is being assembled for an emergency session. The legal department is on standby. CNN, Fox, and MSNBC have all called the press office in the last 3 minutes asking about an incident on Flight 612. And you're telling me there was radio interference. Patricia, we followed standard. You followed nothing. I gave you a direct order from corporate operations to stand down, and you ignored it. Is the child safe?" Delgado leaned toward the radio. "This is Officer Delgado, DFW Airport Police. The child is safe. She's with a crew member named Rachel Dunn, who appears to be the only person on this aircraft with functioning judgment." Silence from the radio. Then Patricia's voice, quieter but harder. "Officer Delgado, thank you. Greg, you are relieved of duty. Effective this moment. Do not interact with the child. Do not interact with the father when he arrives. Do not interact with anyone. Sit down and do not move." Greg opened his mouth to protest. Nothing came out. He sat down in the jump seat and stared at the floor. Captain Driscoll still hadn't emerged from the cockpit. He was sealed behind that door the way cowards seal themselves behind authority, hiding from consequences in a uniform. Donna was in the galley crying. Not the kind of crying that deserves sympathy. The kind of crying that comes when a person realizes that the worst thing they've ever done was recorded by 15,000 witnesses. And there is no version of the future where it doesn't follow them forever. But she wasn't crying for Lily. She was crying for herself. And that difference mattered. 4:15 p.m., 5 minutes to departure. David Chen, the teacher from economy, had posted his video on Twitter 90 seconds ago. His angle showed what Tiffany's never did. The full slap, the beads flying Lily falling against the armrest, Donna towering over her, the child sinking to the floor, every adult in first class watching and doing nothing. His caption was simple. A flight attendant slapped a 6-year-old black girl on Skyway Flight 612 and tried to remove her from first class. The girl's father owns the airline. This is what happened. In 90 seconds, the video had 4,000 retweets. In 3 minutes, it would have 40,000. By the time Marcus Walker's car pulled up to the terminal, it would have 400,000. The video showed something Tiffany's stream had carefully hidden. The moment after the slap, when Lily was on the ground, a clear shot of the first-class cabin showed every passenger's face. The businessman who muttered about people knowing their place. The woman who clutched her purse. Catherine, in 1B, pulling her white children closer, while a black child sat on the floor alone. The man who started the slow clap. All of their faces clear as daylight on camera forever. Catherine saw the video on her own phone. Someone in her group chat had shared it. She watched herself on screen, watched herself pull her children close, watched herself say nothing while Lily cried, and she put her hand over her mouth. "Oh, God," Catherine whispered. "What did I do?" What she did was nothing, and she was about to learn that nothing was enough to condemn her. 4:17 p.m., 3 minutes to departure. The departure board still showed Flight 612 scheduled, but nobody on that plane was going anywhere. Everyone in first class knew it. The energy had shifted from impatient annoyance to a thick, choking dread. The passengers who had laughed were no longer laughing. The passengers who had applauded were studying their shoes. The passengers who had filmed were quietly checking whether they'd captured anything that made them look complicit. They all had. Every single one of them. Tiffany's live stream hit 22,000 viewers. She had stopped narrating. For the first time in her content creation career, Tiffany Blake had nothing to say. She just held the phone and let it record. A passenger in row 3 stood up and walked toward Lily. He was an older white man, maybe 65, silver hair, expensive suit. He'd been silent throughout the entire incident. He hadn't laughed. He hadn't applauded, but he hadn't helped either. He stopped in front of Rachel and Lily. "Young lady." He said to Lily, "I owe you an apology." Lily looked up at him. She didn't say anything. "I sat in my seat and watched what happened to you, and I didn't say one word. That was wrong. I'm a grandfather. I have a granddaughter about your age. If someone did to her what that woman did to you, I'd want every person in the room to stand up. And I didn't stand up. I'm sorry." Lily considered this with the terrifying sincerity of a child. "My grandma says sorry only counts if you mean it." "Counts. I mean it then. Okay?" The old man nodded, once turned around and sat back down. His wife touched his arm and he shook his head. He couldn't talk about it yet. That small exchange broke something open in the cabin. Another passenger approached. A woman in her 40s business suit, red eyes. "I'm sorry too. I should have said something." Then another. "I recorded it and I didn't help. I'm ashamed." Then another. And another. One by one, the passengers of first class came forward like penitents in a church confessing the sin of silence to a 6-year-old girl who was still holding Rachel Dunn's hand on the floor of an airplane aisle. Snorts. Not all of them came. The businessman who'd muttered about people knowing their place stayed in his seat and pretended to read his newspaper. The woman who clutched her purse had her eyes closed and was pretending to sleep. Some people, even when the mirror is held directly to their face, choose not to look. But enough of them came that Lily's grip on Rachel's hand loosened just slightly, just enough to suggest that maybe, just maybe, the world wasn't entirely made up of people who hurt you and people who watched. 4:19 p.m., 1 minute to scheduled departure. Nobody mentioned the schedule. The departure board was irrelevant. Now 300 passengers on an airplane that wasn't going anywhere until Marcus Walker said it could. Delgado's radio crackled. "Officer Delgado, this is terminal security. We have a gentleman at Gate 38B identifying himself as Marcus Walker, CEO of Skyway Airlines. He's requesting immediate access to the aircraft." Delgado looked at Lily. "Your daddy's here, sweetheart." Lily's face transformed. The fear, the pain, the bewildered hurt of the last 30 minutes, all of it broke apart like ice in a river. And underneath it was the pure, desperate relief of a child who had been waiting for the one person in the world who could make everything okay. Daddy. She scrambled to her feet, still holding Rachel's hand, and looked toward the aircraft door with eyes so wide and hopeful it hurt to witness. Heavy footsteps on the jet bridge fast the walk of a man who was controlling himself from running only because running might frighten his daughter more. Marcus Walker appeared in the doorway of Flight 612. He was tall, powerfully built, wearing jeans and a plain black t-shirt, because Marcus Walker, like his daughter, had never dressed to impress anyone. His face was calm, the way a locked vault is calm. Everything contained everything, controlled everything, held in place by sheer force of will. His eyes found Lily instantly. He crossed the distance between the door and his daughter in 4 strides, dropped to his knees, and wrapped his arms around her so tight she disappeared into his chest. "Daddy." Lily buried her face in his shirt. "Daddy, you came." Clears throat and snorts. "I'm here, baby girl. Daddy's here." "I've got you." He held her, just held her. One hand on the back of her head, one arm around her small body, his face pressed against her braids. His eyes were closed, his jaw was working. If you watched closely, you could see the muscles in his neck trembling with the effort of not breaking down in front of 300 people. The cabin was silent. Tiffany's live stream showed 28,000 viewers watching a father hold his daughter on the floor of an airplane. Nobody typed, nobody commented. The silence was sacred. Marcus pulled back enough to look at Lily's face. He saw the handprint on her cheek. It had darkened to a deep, angry red. The shape of Donna Kessler's fingers was clearly visible on his daughter's skin. Something changed in Marcus Walker's eyes. The warmth that had been there for Lily was still there, buried deep. But over it came something else, something cold and vast and absolute. He stood up slowly, lifting Lily with one arm the way fathers carry children who are too old to be carried, but too hurt to walk. She clung to his neck with both arms and pressed her face into his shoulder. Marcus Walker looked around the first-ass cabin of his own airplane. He saw Greg Holloway frozen in the jump seat, sweat running down his temples. He saw the passengers with their guilty faces and their guilty phones. He saw Tiffany Blake and her live stream camera. He saw David Chen in economy still recording. He saw Catherine in 1B unable to meet his eyes. Then he saw Donna Kessler. She was standing at the edge of the galley. Her face was blotched red and white from crying. Her hands were clasped in front of her like she was praying. When Marcus's eyes found her, she flinched backward so hard she hit the galley counter. "Mr. Walker." Her voice was a wreck. "Mr. Walker, please." "I didn't know. I swear to God I didn't know who she was. If I had known." Marcus held up one hand. Just one hand. Donna stopped talking as if he'd pressed mute. "If you had known," Marcus said quietly, "if you had known she was my daughter, you wouldn't have hit her. Is that what you're telling me?" "Yes. Yes. I would never." "So you would only hit a child whose father couldn't fight back." Donna's mouth opened. No sound came out. "You would only rip up a boarding pass belonging to a child whose family couldn't afford a lawyer." Donna shook her head frantically, but Marcus wasn't asking questions. He was making statements. Each one landed like a hammer on stone. You would only throw torn paper in the face of a little girl who had nobody powerful to protect her. That's not "I was doing my J.O., your job." Marcus shifted Lily's weight on his hip. She was still clinging to his neck, her face hidden. Your job was to welcome a 6-year-old unaccompanied minor onto her first flight. Your job was to check her documents and help her find her seat. Your job was to make her feel safe. Instead, you hit her. You stole her belongings. You destroyed her ticket. You put her on the floor. You called security to drag her away like a criminal. She is 6 years old. His voice hadn't risen above conversational volume. It didn't need to. Every word carried the weight of a man who had built an empire and could dismantle careers with a phone call. But that wasn't what made his words devastating. What made them devastating was that he was right, and every person in that cabin knew it. Rachel Dunn was standing a few feet away. She hadn't let go of her end of Lily's connection, staying close ready. Marcus noticed her. He noticed that she was the one Lily had been sitting with. He noticed the tear tracks on her face. "Who are you?" he asked. "Rachel Dunn, sir. I'm a flight attendant. 3 months on the job. I tried to stop them." I checked the manifest and told Greg the ticket was valid, and he told me to shut up. I should have done more. I should have stepped in front of her. I should have. "You stayed with my daughter." "Yes, sir. When nobody else did. She needed somebody." Marcus looked at Rachel for a long moment. Then he nodded once, a nod that meant more than words. He turned back to the cabin. 32,000 viewers on Tiffany's stream, every phone in the cabin recording news vans pulling up to the terminal outside, and a 6-year-old girl with a handprint on her face hiding in her father's arms. "Where is the captain of this aircraft?" Marcus asked. Nobody answered. "The captain," Marcus repeated. The man who said, "If Donna says there's a problem, there's a problem." The man who ordered my daughter removed from this plane without looking at her face. "Where is he, Silence?" Then Delgado pointed at the cockpit door. "He went in there about 20 minutes ago. Sir hasn't come out since." Marcus shifted Lily again and walked toward the cockpit. He knocked once hard. Nothing. He knocked again. "Captain Driscoll, this is Marcus Walker. I own this aircraft and I own this airline. You can open this door yourself or I can have it opened for you. You have 5 seconds." 4 seconds of silence. Then the lock clicked and the cockpit door swung open. Captain Frank Driscoll stood there in his decorated uniform. 37 years of service pins and combination badges lined up on his chest like a wall of armor that was suddenly made of paper. His face was the color of ash. His eyes were the eyes of a man who had just realized that his entire career was standing on a trap door and the lever had already been pulled. "Mr. Walker," Driscoll began, "Sir, I want you to know I don't want to know what you want me to know." Marcus's voice cut through Driscoll's words like a blade through cloth. "I want to know why you heard a child crying in your cabin and chose to hide in your cockpit. I was preparing for departure. You were hiding. You heard what was happening. You came out. You saw my daughter. You didn't ask a single question and you told your crew to remove her. Then you went back in here and locked the door. You locked the door, Captain, while a 6-year-old girl sat on the floor of your airplane with a handprint on her face." Driscoll had nothing. No explanation, no defense. 37 years of flying, and he couldn't find a single word that would make what he'd done acceptable, because there wasn't one. Lily lifted her head from Marcus's shoulder. She looked at Driscoll. Her cheek was swollen now. The handprint had deepened to something that would take days to fade. "You told them to take me off the plane," Lily said. Her voice was small but steady. "I heard you. You said get her off." Driscoll looked at the child he'd ordered removed from his aircraft, the child whose father owned everything Driscoll had built his life on, the child who was looking at him not with anger, but with the confused hurt of someone who genuinely did not understand why an adult would do this. His chin dropped to his chest. His decorated uniform suddenly looked like a costume. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "Sorry doesn't fix her face," Marcus said. He turned away from the cockpit with Lily in his arms and walked back to the center of first class. Patricia Langford's voice was coming through the radio non-stop. The board of directors was calling. CNN was calling. The Department of Transportation was calling. The stock price was moving. The world was watching. Marcus Walker stood in the aisle of his own airplane holding his daughter, surrounded by the people who had hurt her, and the people who had watched her be hurt, and the one person who had tried to help, and he was just getting started. Marcus sat Lily down in seat 2. Her seat, the seat she'd been assigned all along the seat. Donna Kessler had decided she didn't deserve. He pulled the seat belt across her lap and clicked it shut the way he'd done 1,000 times in car seats and high chairs and swings at the park. "Daddy has to do something now," he said softly. "I need you to sit right here and hold Rachel's hand. Can you do that for me?" Lily nodded. Her fingers found Rachel's palm again and locked on. Marcus straightened up. He kissed the top of his daughter's head, right between her 2 braids. Then he turned around to face the cabin. And the man who stood up was not the father who had been kneeling. The man who stood up was the founder of a billion-dollar airline, and his eyes held the kind of controlled fury that makes boardrooms go silent, and grown men forget how to breathe. 4:22 p.m. "Nobody leaves this aircraft," Marcus said. His voice was not loud. It didn't need to be. "Nobody makes a call. Nobody deletes a video. Nobody touches a phone until I'm done." He reached into his back pocket and pulled out his own phone. He dialed a number and put it on speaker. The ring filled the cabin twice before a voice answered. "This is James Whitfield, chairman of the board of directors, the most powerful name in Skyway Airlines after Marcus himself. James, I'm on flight 612. I'm standing in my first-class cabin where a member of my crew slapped my 6-year-old daughter across the face, destroyed her boarding pass, stole her personal belongings, and attempted to have her arrested. All of this was broadcast live to approximately 30,000 witnesses. I need the full board on this call in 60 seconds. Whitfield's voice cracked. Marcus, is Lily 60 seconds? James. 47 seconds later, the speakerphone carried the sound of multiple voices joining a conference bridge. Board members, legal counsel, the head of communications, the VP of human resources. All of them pulled from meetings, dinners, cars, and bathrooms. Because when Marcus Walker said 60 seconds, he meant it. Everyone's on Whitfield confirmed. Good, because I'm about to make decisions that will go into effect immediately, and I need them witnessed and ratified in real time. Marcus turned to face Donna Kessler. She was standing by the galley entrance, gripping the curtain with one hand like it was the only thing keeping her vertical. Donna Kessler stepped forward. Donna's legs moved, but barely. She took 2 steps into the aisle and stopped. She couldn't look at Marcus. She couldn't look at Lily. She stared at a point on the carpet somewhere between her shoes. "Look at me," Marcus said. She raised her eyes. They were bloodshot, swollen, terrified. "State your full name and position for the record." Donna Marie Kessler, senior flight attendant, 25 years with Skyway Airlines. Her voice was shaking so badly the words came out in pieces. 25 years. Marcus let that hang in the air. In 25 years, how many children have you welcomed onto this aircraft? I don't. Thousands, I suppose. Thousands. And how many of them did you hit? Donna's face crumpled. "Mr. Walker, please." "How many, Donna, just?" "It was just today. It was a mistake. A terrible, horrible mistake. I lost my temper, and you lost your temper with a 6-year-old child who was holding a valid boarding pass and politely asking to sit in her assigned seat. You lost your temper so badly that you struck her across the face hard enough to leave a visible handprint. You lost your temper so completely that you ripped up her ticket, confiscated her belongings, called her an animal, and told her to crawl. Snorts. Every word was a nail. Donna was being crucified by the precise recitation of her own actions. I need you to understand something, Donna. I did not build this airline so that women like you could assault children on my planes. I grew up in Detroit. I grew up poor. I grew up black in a world that told me every single day that I didn't belong. I built Skyway because I wanted an airline where everyone belongs. And you just proved that we failed. He turned to Greg. Greg Holloway stepped forward. Greg stood on legs that looked like they might fold. His shirt was soaked through with sweat. The arrogance that had defined him an hour ago had been replaced by something raw and cornered. "You're the cabin manager," Marcus said. "You are the check on the system. When a crew member makes a mistake, you're supposed to catch it. When a passenger is being mistreated, you're supposed to stop it. What did you do instead?" Greg's mouth worked. "I followed Donna's assessment of you followed nothing. Rachel Dunn, a crew member with 3 months of experience, came to you with evidence that the ticket was valid. She showed you the manifest. She told you it was booked through a corporate account. What did you say to her?" Greg closed his eyes. He knew every person on the phone was listening. He knew 35,000 people were watching through Tiffany's camera. He knew David Chen's video was spreading across the internet like fire through dry grass. "I told her to be quiet," Greg whispered. "You told her to shut up and threatened her job. You silenced the one person on your crew who was trying to do the right thing. Then you called airport police on a crying child." Marcus turned to face the cockpit. "Captain Driscoll, get out here." Driscoll emerged slowly. He'd removed his captain's hat. Without it, he looked 10 years older and 100 times smaller. His decorations and service pins glinted under the overhead lights from a war. He just lost. "You came out of that cockpit," Marcus said. "You saw a child in distress. You saw a crew member in conflict with a minor. You had 37 years of experience to draw on, 37 years of command authority. And you said, and I'm quoting my daughter here because she remembers every word. You said, If Donna says there's a problem, there's a problem. Get the kid off the plane. Then you went back into your cockpit and locked the door. Driscoll's chin was trembling. Mr. Walker, I take full responsibility. You don't get to take responsibility as if it's something noble. You abandoned a child on your aircraft. You delegated your authority to a woman who was in the middle of committing assault. Responsibility isn't something you take, Captain. It's something you exercise. And you didn't. 4:28 p.m. Marcus walked slowly down the aisle looking at the passengers of first class. Every single one of them. Snorts. His eyes moved from face to face the way a teacher scans a classroom after catching everyone cheating. Now let's talk about the rest of you. The cabin held its breath. 32 adults in first class. My daughter was slapped, humiliated, and forced to sit on the floor of this airplane. She cried for help. She begged for someone to call her father. She said, "Please, can I just call my daddy?" And 31 of you did nothing. He stopped in front of the businessman who had muttered about people knowing their place. The man was clutching his newspaper like a shield. "You, sir, my daughter heard you. She heard what you said about people knowing their place. She's 6. She doesn't fully understand what that means yet, but she will someday, and she'll remember that a grown man said it while she was sitting on the floor with a handprint on her face." The man couldn't speak. His newspaper shook in his hands. Marcus moved to Catherine in 1B. Her children were pressed against her sides, their eyes wide. Catherine's face was a ruin of guilt. "You have children," Marcus said, "sitting right here the same age as my daughter. Nobody questioned their tickets. Nobody asked you to prove you could afford first class. Nobody touched them." "I know," Catherine whispered. "I know, and I'm so sorry. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. You could have said stop." One word. That's all it would have taken. One adult voice saying, "Stop. You're hurting a child." And the whole thing might have ended. But you chose your comfort over my daughter's safety. Catherine broke down, sobbing. Her children looked up at her, confused and frightened by their mother's tears. Marcus didn't linger. He wasn't there to torture anyone. He was there to make sure every single person understood what they had participated in. He stopped in front of Tiffany Blake. Her phone was still recording. 38,000 viewers. Tiffany's face was a mess of running mascara and badly concealed panic. "You," Marcus said. "How many followers do you have?" 800,000, Tiffany said in a voice barely above a whisper. 800,000 people who watch you and trust your judgment. And you pointed your camera at my daughter and told the world she was a scammer. You zoomed in on a child's pain and turned it into content. You cheered while a woman assaulted a 6-year-old. You called it justice. I didn't know the full story. You didn't want to know the full story. The full story was a little girl crying on the floor with a handprint on her face. And you chose to see a scammer because that version got you more views. Tiffany lowered her phone for the first time in 40 minutes. Her hand was shaking so badly the image on screen was a blur. Marcus turned back to the center of the cabin. James is the board still on the line. "We're here, Marcus. Every member." "Good. I'm implementing the following effective immediately. If any board member objects, speak now." Silence from the phone. 4:33 p.m. Donna Kessler is terminated from Skyway Airlines, effective this moment. She is permanently banned from all Skyway properties and partner airlines. Criminal assault charges will be filed against her with the Dallas County District Attorney's Office for striking a minor. Human Resources will process her termination before close of business today. She will be escorted from this aircraft by law enforcement and will not set foot on a Skyway plane again. Donna let out a sound that was part gasp, part sob, part the death rattle of a 25-year career. Her knees buckled. She caught herself on the armrest of seat 1D. The passenger in 1D pulled away from her as if she were contagious. "Mr. Walker, please." Donna's voice was raw, desperate, stripped of every pretense. "I have 2 children. I'm a single mother. My son is in college." My mortgage payment is due in 10 days. If you fire me, I lose everything. I lose my insurance. I lose my home. Please, I am begging you." Marcus looked at her, and for the first time, something other than fury crossed his face. Something that might have been grief, not for Donna, for the world that had made Donna what she was, and the people she'd hurt along the way to this moment. "My daughter begged too," he said quietly. "She said, please, over and over. She begged to call her daddy. She begged you to stop. She begged for her backpack. You didn't listen to a single word she said. You hit her instead." Donna collapsed into the nearest seat. There was nothing left of her. No defense, no story, no 25 years of experience to hide behind. Just a woman sitting in a first-class seat she could never afford, crying because the consequences of her cruelty had finally arrived. Greg Holloway Marcus continued terminated, effective immediately. You had the authority and the information to stop this, and you chose to enable it. You threatened a junior crew member who tried to protect a child. Your failures are not just professional, they're moral. HR will process your termination alongside Donna's. Greg didn't beg. He just sat there in the jump seat with his eyes closed and his hands folded in his lap like a man at his own funeral. Captain Frank Driscoll. Driscoll stepped forward. His back was straight. 37 years of military and aviation discipline held his posture even as his career disintegrated around him. "Captain, you present a different problem. You didn't strike my daughter. You didn't call security. But you had the highest authority on this aircraft and you used it to endorse everything that happened. A captain who can't protect a child on his own plane doesn't deserve command of that plane." Driscoll's jaw tightened. "What is your decision, sir?" "You're grounded, effective immediately. Suspended without pay pending full investigation by the FAA and our internal review board. Your captain's certification will be reviewed. If the investigation determines negligence, you will be terminated. If it determines willful misconduct, criminal referral." Driscoll nodded once, the nod of a man who knew he deserved it. "And one more thing, Captain. Those pins on your chest, those awards, those 37 years, none of them mean anything if the man wearing them can't recognize when a child needs help." Driscoll's hand moved involuntarily to his chest. He touched his service pins. Then his hand dropped to his side and stayed there. 4:37 p.m. Marcus's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. 16 missed calls. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, the Associated Press, the New York Times, and 4 numbers from Washington, D.C. that he suspected were from very important offices. He ignored them all. He wasn't done. "Patricia," he said toward Greg's radio, which was still broadcasting. "Are you still there? I'm here, Marcus. I want a replacement crew at this gate in 20 minutes. Full crew. Captain First Officer, 4 cabin attendants. I want Flight 612 in the air within the hour. Already being assembled, sir. And Patricia Rachel Dunn stays on the flight." Rachel, who had been sitting next to Lily this entire time holding the child's hand while Marcus dismantled careers around them, looked up in surprise. Miss Dunn is the only crew member on this aircraft who attempted to protect a passenger. She checked the manifest. She identified the valid ticket. She reported it to her supervisor and was threatened with termination for doing so. When no one else would sit with my daughter, she did. Marcus walked back to where Rachel sat with Lily. He looked at Rachel with an expression that every employee dreams of seeing from the person at the top. Recognition. Real recognition. "Rachel, how long have you been with Skyway? 3 months. Sir, are you happy here?" Rachel let out a sound that was half laugh, half cry. "Sir, your cabin manager fired me 20 minutes ago for trying to tell the truth, so I honestly don't know if I even work here anymore. You work here, and Greg Holloway will never fire anyone again." He snorts, paused. "I'm creating a new position, Director of Passenger Safety and Dignity. It reports directly to the VP of Operations. I want you in it." Rachel's mouth opened, closed, opened again. "Mr. Walker, I've been here 3 months. I don't have the experience, for you had 3 months of experience, and you were the only person on a crew of 6 who knew right from wrong. That's not a lack of experience, Rachel. That's exactly the experience I need." Lily tugged on Rachel's hand. "See, I told you my daddy would fix it. 4:41 p.m. Tiffany Blake had been watching all of this with her phone still recording. Her audience now at 42,000 viewers. She had been silent since Marcus spoke to her, but she was a content creator to her core, and content creators do not stay silent when history is happening in front of their cameras. "Mr. Walker," she called out. "Can I?" "My audience wants to know what happens next." Marcus turned to her. "Your audience, right? The audience that cheered when my daughter was slapped. The audience that called her a scammer. The audience that said, 'Teach her now or she'll grow up entitled.' That audience." Tiffany flinched. The comments were, "I can't control you shaped what people said. You chose the angle, you chose the narrative, you called a crying child entitled, you called a valid ticket fake, you framed an assault as justice. You did that with 800,000 followers watching. And you did it because outrage gets more engagement than empathy." Tiffany's phone dipped. For a moment, it looked like she might lower it entirely, but the viewer count was still climbing, and old habits are the hardest chains to break. "I'm not going to tell you what to do with your platform," Marcus said. "That's your choice. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do with mine. Every major news outlet in this country is calling me right now. When I talk to them, and I will talk to them, I'm going to play David Chen's video." Tiffany's face went white. David Chen's video, the man in economy who recorded from the back of the plane. His angle shows everything yours didn't. The slap, the beads flying off my daughter's hair, the handprint, and your face, Tiffany. Your face smiling and narrating while it happened. Tiffany lowered her phone. She lowered it all the way. The live stream showed the ceiling of the aircraft for several seconds before she ended it. 44,000 viewers vanished from her screen, but the screenshots were already taken. The clips were already saved. The internet had already decided what it thought of Tiffany Blake, and no amount of rebranding would undo it. James Marcus said to the conference call, "I need the board to ratify the following policy changes, effective across all Skyway operations within 30 days. We're listening. First, body cameras on every crew member during passenger interactions. All footage reviewed by a new passenger rights division. Second, mandatory bias and sensitivity training for every employee. 40 hours minimum. Annual re-certification required. Failure to complete means termination. Third, any complaint of discrimination triggers automatic suspension of the accused employee, pending investigation, not administrative leave. Suspension without pay, 0 exceptions. Fourth, a passenger rights hotline with direct access to corporate. No hold music, no transfers, no runaround. A grandmother calls worried about her grandchild. She talks to a human being within 60 seconds. He paused. Whitfield's voice came through the speaker. "Marcus, the legal team is going to want to review the liability implications of James. My daughter was assaulted on my airplane. Your legal team can review whatever it wants after these policies are implemented, not before." Silence on the line. Then Whitfield's voice quieter. "Ratified. All 4. Effective immediately." Marcus looked at Officer Delgado, who had been standing guard near Lily throughout everything. "Officer, I want to formally file charges against Donna Kessler, assault of a minor, destruction of valid travel documents, filing a false report with law enforcement." Delgado nodded. "I'll need a formal statement from you and from Lily at her comfort level with a child advocate present." "Arranged. My legal team will coordinate." Marcus looked at Donna, who was still collapsed in the first-class seat, her face in her hands. "Donna, you are going to be escorted off this aircraft by Officer Delgado. You are not to return to any Skyway property. Your employee credentials will be deactivated within the hour. A representative from HR will contact you regarding your final paycheck and the return of company property." Donna lifted her face from her hands. Her makeup was destroyed. Her eyes were swollen nearly shut. She looked at Marcus, and then slowly she looked at Lily. The child was sitting in seat 2A, exactly where she was supposed to be, holding Rachel's hand and watching everything with 6-year-old eyes that were too old for her face. "Lily?" Donna said, her voice a broken rasp. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I'm so sorry for what I did to you." Lily looked at Donna for a long time. Then she said, "My grandma says, sorry only counts if you change." Donna closed her eyes. A fresh wave of tears spilled down her already ruined face. She stood up on unsteady legs. Delgado stepped forward and gestured toward the aircraft door. Donna walked past Marcus without looking at him. She walked past Greg without looking at him. She walked past every passenger who had cheered for her an hour ago and now couldn't meet her eyes. At the aircraft door, she stopped. She didn't turn around. She just stood there for a moment, one hand on the door frame as if she were saying goodbye to everything she'd ever been. Then she stepped through and walked down the jet bridge and out of Skyway Airlines forever. 4:48 p.m. Greg was next. He stood without being asked and walked to the door with the mechanical movements of a man operating on autopilot. He didn't apologize. He didn't beg. He had heard Marcus dismantle Donna's 25-year career in 4 minutes, and he understood that words would change nothing. At the door, he paused and said one thing. "For what it's worth, I knew the ticket was real. Rachel told me, and I knew." Then why Marcus asked. Greg looked at the floor. Because Donna always handled things. Because it was easier. Because I looked at that little girl and I thought she probably didn't really need first class anyway. He walked off the plane. The jet bridge swallowed him whole. Captain Driscoll removed his wings from his uniform and held them out to Marcus. "I won't insult you by wearing these off your aircraft. Marcus didn't take them. Keep them. Hang them somewhere. You'll see them every morning. And every morning ask yourself if you've earned them back yet." Driscoll closed his fist around the wings, nodded once, and walked to the cockpit to collect his flight bag. When he emerged, he walked past Lily and stopped. "Miss Walker," he said to the 6-year-old, "your father is a good man and you are braver than anyone I've ever flown with." Lily looked up at him. "Thank you, Captain." Driscoll walked off the plane with his bag in one hand and his wings in the other, and 37 years of decorated service weighing nothing at all. 4:51 p.m. 1. The cabin was quiet now. The predators were gone. The enablers were exposed. The witnesses were sitting with their guilt. And Marcus Walker was standing in the aisle of his own airplane, looking at his daughter, who had one hand in Rachel's grip and the other pressed flat against the window, watching planes taxi on the runway below. His phone buzzed. A text from his mother, Eloise. "Is my grandbaby safe?" He typed back with one thumb. "She's safe, Mama. She's in her seat. 2A. Eloise's reply came fast. "Tell that baby her grandma is proud of her, and Marcus burn it down." Marcus put his phone away. A new crew appeared at the aircraft door. Fresh faces, professional smiles. A replacement captain named Williams Young, steady-eyed, who shook Marcus's hand and said simply, "We'll take good care of her, sir." Marcus knelt in front of Lily one more time. "Baby girl daddy has to make some phone calls, but I'm going to be on this flight with you, okay? I'm sitting right here in 2B, right next to you the whole way." Lily's face lit up. "You're coming to New York, too. I was always coming to New York. I was going to surprise you at the gate, but I think this surprise is better." Lily threw her arms around his neck. "This is the best surprise." He held her tight. This man who owned an airline and couldn't own the world enough to keep it from hurting his little girl. He held her and felt her heartbeat against his chest, fast and small and alive, and he pressed his face into her braids and breathed in the scent of the shampoo her grandmother had used that morning. And he made a promise in the silence of his own heart that no child would ever be treated this way on his planes again. Then he sat down in 2. B took Lily's hand in his and looked out the window at the runway. Somewhere above them, the departure board finally updated. Flight 612 departing, and David Chen's video hit 1 million views. Flight 612 climbed through 30,000 feet and the seatbelt sign turned off. But nobody in first class moved. The new crew operated with the careful precision of people who knew exactly what had happened before they boarded. Captain Williams kept the cockpit door open. Rachel Dunn served beverages with hands that had finally stopped shaking. And Marcus Walker sat in 2B with his daughter's head resting against his arm while his phone filled with messages he hadn't yet read. Lily had fallen asleep somewhere over Arkansas. The exhaustion of what she'd been through had caught up with her all at once, the way it does with children, like a switch, flipping from awake to unconscious mid-sentence. One moment, she was telling Marcus about the butterfly stickers on her backpack, and the next her eyes were closed, and her breathing had gone slow and deep, and her small hand was still wrapped around his index finger. Marcus looked at her face. The handprint was darkening into a bruise. By tomorrow, it would be purple. By the day after, yellow and green. A week from now, the mark on her skin would fade. The mark on her memory would not. He opened his phone. 247 missed calls. His inbox showed 1,843 unread emails. His text messages were a wall of names he recognized from boardrooms and news desks and government offices. He scrolled past all of them and opened one thread, the family group chat. His mother had written, "Call me when my baby wakes up. I need to hear her voice." His sister had written, "Marcus, I saw the video. I can't stop crying. Hug her for me." His brother had written, "Tell me what you need. Anything. I'm here." He typed back one message to all of them. "She's sleeping. She's safe. I'm right next to her." Then he opened David Chen's video. It had been 2 hours since David posted it. The view count read 4.7 million. Marcus pressed play with the volume low enough that only he could hear. He watched his daughter walk onto the plane. He watched her hold up her boarding pass with a smile. He watched Donna grab her arm. He watched Lily plant her feet and resist. He watched Donna yank the backpack off her shoulders hard enough to tear the butterfly patch. He watched his daughter scream for him. And then he watched a grown woman slap his 6-year-old child across the face so hard that beads flew off her braids like shrapnel. Marcus paused the video. He closed his eyes. His jaw worked back and forth. He breathed in through his nose and out through his mouth 3 times the way his therapist had taught him. And then he breathed a 4th time because 3 wasn't enough. He opened his eyes and looked at the bruise on Lily's sleeping face and felt something settle inside him that went deeper than anger, deeper than grief. It was the cold, absolute certainty of a man who knew exactly what he was going to do and would not be talked out of any of it. He called his chief legal counsel. "Robert, have you seen the video, Marcus?" "The entire country has seen the video. Our phones haven't stopped in 90 minutes. CNN has it on a loop. MSNBC is running a special segment. Fox is covering it from the crew's perspective, trying to find a counter-narrative. But the video is too clear. There's no counter-narrative to a woman slapping a child. What's the legal exposure for Donna Kessler, personally assault of a minor third-degree felony in Texas, 2 to 10 years, for the company? The DOT is already calling. The FAA is opening a review. We've had preliminary contact from 3 civil rights organizations requesting meetings. The NAACP, the ACLU, and a children's advocacy group out of Atlanta. Set up meetings with all 3 this week. Marcus, the PR team, wants to get ahead of this with a statement. They've drafted no statements from PR. I'll make the statement myself tomorrow in New York. Set a press conference for 10 a.m. at headquarters. The board wants to review. The board ratified everything an hour ago. They can review the policies they already approved. The press conference happens at 10 o'clock. Robert paused. "Marcus, one more thing. Donna Kessler's attorney just contacted us. She's claiming wrongful termination and emotional distress." Marcus actually laughed. It was a short, sharp sound with no humor in it. Emotional distress. She slapped my daughter and she's claiming emotional distress. Her attorney is arguing she was following what she believed to be standard protocol and that the termination was retaliatory. Standard protocol to hit a child, I know. Letter Sue. We have body camera footage from Delgado David Chen's video, Tiffany Blake's live stream, Rachel Dunn's time-stamped manifest screenshot, Patricia Langford's recorded radio transmissions ordering them to stand down, and 35,000 witnesses. If Donna Kessler wants to walk into a courtroom and explain to a jury why she slapped a 6-year-old black girl for sitting in first class, she's welcome to do exactly that. Robert was quiet for a moment. Understood. Marcus ended the call and scrolled through the news alerts on his phone. Every major outlet was running the story. The headlines blurred together into a mosaic of outrage. His phone rang. The caller ID showed a 202 area code. Washington, D.C., Mr. Walker. This is Margaret Sullivan, Office of the Secretary of Transportation. Secretary Chen has asked me to reach out regarding the incident on Skyway Flight 612. I'm listening. The Secretary is deeply concerned by what he's seen in the video circulating online. He's prepared to open a formal investigation into discriminatory practices at Skyway Airlines and potentially across the industry. He'd like to speak with you directly. Would tomorrow work? I'm holding a press conference at 10 a.m. in New York. I'd welcome the Secretary's participation, or he can call me afterward. A pause. Government officials don't typically participate in corporate press conferences. I'll relay the message, Mr. Walker. Miss Sullivan, tell the Secretary something for me. This isn't just about Skyway. My daughter was treated this way on my airline. Imagine what's happening on airlines where the CEO doesn't look like us. Silence on the line. Then I'll relay that as well, sir. Marcus hung up. Lily stirred against his arm, murmured something about butterflies, and settled back into sleep. Rachel appeared in the aisle. She had changed out of her Skyway uniform and was wearing a simple company polo. The uniform felt wrong after what had happened. She knelt beside Marcus's seat. Mr. Walker, can I get you anything? Coffee, water, Rachel. You can stop working for today. You've done enough. I don't really know how to stop, sir. If I stop, I start thinking about what happened. And if I start thinking about what happened, I start thinking about what almost happened. If I hadn't checked that manifest, but you did. But what if I hadn't? What if I'd been in the bathroom? What if I'd been on a different flight? Lily would have been dragged off that plane by police. She would have been sitting in some airport security room alone with a handprint on her face, thinking nobody in the world cared about her. Marcus looked at Rachel. She was young. She was scared. And she was carrying the weight of a moral decision that people 3 times her age had failed to make. Rachel, I'm going to tell you something my mother told me when I was building this airline. She said, Marcus, you can't save everybody, but if you walk past someone drowning and you know how to swim, you'd better get wet. You got wet today. That matters. Rachel's eyes filled. She blinked hard. My mom is sick, Mr. Walker. Cancer, stage 3. The insurance from this job is the only thing covering her treatment. When Greg fired me, I thought I'd killed my own mother because I couldn't keep my mouth shut. Greg didn't have the authority to fire you, and even if he did, I would have hired you back before you reached the parking lot. Your mother's treatment is covered for as long as she needs it. Company insurance plus supplemental. I'll have HR set it up tomorrow. Rachel pressed her hand over her mouth. Her shoulders shook once, twice, and then she pulled herself together with the force of someone who had learned very young how to keep going. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you, Mr. Walker. Thank you, Rachel, for my daughter. Rachel stood and walked back to the galley. She made it behind the curtain before she broke down, completely sliding to the floor, with her back against the beverage cart, crying so hard she had to press a towel against her face to muffle the sound. She cried for Lily. She cried for her mother. She cried for the 3 months she had spent swallowing her conscience every time Donna mistreated a passenger because she was afraid. And she cried because for the first time since she started this job, doing the right thing hadn't destroyed her. It had saved her. 5:47 p.m., 2 hours into the flight, Marcus's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. He almost ignored it. Then he read the preview. Mr. Walker, this is David Chen, the teacher who recorded the video. I got your number from Officer Delgado. I hope that's okay. I need to tell you something about what I saw before I started recording. Marcus typed back, Tell me. 3 dots appeared. Then David's message came through in a block of text that Marcus read 3 times. When I stood up to look at what was happening in first class, I didn't start recording immediately. For about 30 seconds, I just watched. I watched your daughter on the floor. I watched the crew standing over her. I watched the passengers in first class doing nothing. And snorts, I almost sat back down. I almost put my phone away and told myself it wasn't my business. I'm a middle school teacher. I deal with other people's kids every day. I know how it feels to be tired of getting involved. But something stopped me. Your daughter looked up and she looked straight down the aisle, and I swear she looked right at me. She, snorts, had tears running down her face and beads missing from her hair and a handprint on her cheek. And she looked at me like she was asking, "Is anyone going to help me?" So I recorded because I couldn't help her any other way from where I was standing. Mr. Walker, I need you to know something. There were at least 15 other passengers in economy who stood up to look. I was the only one who took out my phone. The rest of them sat back down. Marcus read the message a 4th time. Then he typed, "David, your video is the reason the world knows what happened to my daughter. 15 people looked and 1 person acted. That's always how it works. That's always how it's always worked. 1 person. Thank you for being the one." David, snorts, replied, "Is Lily okay?" Marcus looked at his sleeping daughter. She will be. 6:15 p.m., 3 hours into the flight, the internet had become a firestorm. David Chen's video passed 12 million views. The hashtag #JusticeForLee was trending globally. The hashtag Flight 6612 was the #1 trending topic in the United States. Tiffany Blake's name was trending alongside it, but not in the way she wanted. Screenshots of her live stream commentary were being shared side by side with stills from David's video showing Lily on the floor. The contrast was devastating. Tiffany narrating with excitement while a child suffered. Tiffany had deleted her live stream, but the internet doesn't forget. Mirror accounts had saved every second. Her original comments were being compiled into threads. Her follower count, which had been 800,000 when she boarded Flight 612, was dropping in real time. 780 million, 760 million, 740,000. Each thousand represented real human beings deciding they'd seen enough. Tiffany posted an apology from the airplane bathroom, a Walls video, tears, shaking voice. "I made a terrible mistake today. I rushed to judgment. I didn't have all the facts. I should have helped instead of filmed. I take full responsibility. The comments destroyed her. You literally called a 6-year-old a scammer. You zoomed in on a child's face while she was being assaulted. Full responsibility. You haven't even said her name. Lily. Her name is Lily. Say it." Tiffany deleted the apology. She posted a second one. This one was worse. She was crying harder, but the words were the same and the comments were angrier. She deleted that too. Then she turned her phone off entirely and sat in her seat and stared at the wall and realized that 800,000 followers couldn't protect you from being wrong. In seat 1B, Catherine was having a different kind of reckoning. Her children had been asking questions since Marcus confronted her. "Mommy, why was that man angry at you?" "Because Mommy made a mistake, sweetheart." What kind of mistake? Catherine looked at her daughter, who was 5, the same age as Lily, minus 1 year, blonde hair, blue eyes, first-class ticket that nobody questioned. A little girl needed help, and Mommy didn't help her. Why not? The simplest question in the world, the hardest question in the world. Why not? Catherine had been asking herself that same question for 3 hours and still didn't have an answer that wasn't ugly. Because Mommy was afraid, she said finally. Of what? Of being the only one. Clears throat. Her daughter thought about this. But that other lady helped. The one with brown hair, Rachel. Yes, Rachel helped. Rachel wasn't afraid. I think Rachel was afraid too, but she helped anyway. Then why didn't you? Catherine pulled her daughter close and held her and didn't answer because there was no answer. There was only the truth, which was that Catherine had watched a child be hit and humiliated and had chosen her own comfort over a stranger's pain. And no amount of explanation would make that anything other than what it was. 7:30 p.m., 4 hours into the flight, Lily woke up. She blinked in the dimmed cabin light and looked around with the momentary confusion of a child who has forgotten where she is. Then she saw Marcus and everything came back to her, and she pressed closer to him. "Daddy, are we almost there? About an hour and a half, baby girl. Is the mean lady gone? She's gone. She's never going to be on one of our planes again." Lily was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that stopped Marcus's heart. "Daddy, was the lady mean? Because I'm black." Marcus closed his eyes. He had known this conversation would come. He had hoped it would come later. Years later, when Lily was old enough to understand the complexity of the world she'd been born into. Not at 6, not on a plane, not with a bruise on her face. Baby girl, some people look at other people, and they don't see a person. They see a color, or they see clothes, or they see how much money they think someone has, and they make decisions based on those things instead of who the person really is. But I was being nice. I said, "Please." I said, "Ma'am, I know you did." And she hit me anyway. She did, and that was wrong. It was wrong. No matter what color you are, or what clothes you're wearing, or how much money your daddy has, it would have been wrong if you were any child on any plane anywhere in the world. Then why did she do it? Marcus looked at his daughter. 6 years old, missing front tooth, butterfly backpack braids with half the beads, missing a bruise shaped like an adult hand on her small face. Because she was broken inside Lily. Some people have something broken inside them that makes them mean, and it's not your job to fix them. It's not your fault they're broken, and it will never ever be because of anything wrong with you. Lily thought about this. Rachel wasn't broken. No, Rachel was brave. And Mr. David, the teacher, he wasn't broken either. No, he was brave too. So there's more brave people than broken people. Marcus felt something crack open in his chest. Yes, baby girl, there are. Sometimes the broken ones are louder. Sometimes they're the ones in charge. But there are more brave people. There will always be more brave people. Lily nodded as if this settled something important. Then she said, "Daddy, can I have my juice box now? It's in my backpack." Marcus reached for the pink butterfly backpack, unzipped it, found the juice box nestled between the coloring book and the one-eared stuffed rabbit, and poked the straw through the hole the way he'd done 1,000 times at kitchen tables and park benches and backseat car rides. "Thank you, Daddy. You're welcome, baby girl." She drank her juice and looked out the window at clouds turning gold in the setting sun and hummed a song she'd learned in kindergarten. And Marcus Walker sat next to his daughter and watched her and felt his heart breaking and rebuilding at the same time. 8:02 p.m., 1 hour to landing. Rachel brought Lily a coloring book and a fresh set of crayons, not from the airline supply, from her own bag. She'd bought them at the airport gift shop that morning for her niece's birthday. She'd give her niece something else. "These are for you," Rachel said, "because I think you could use some new colors after today." Lily's face lit up. Crayons. Daddy look. The big box with the sharpener in the back. "What do you say, Lily?" "Thank you, Rachel. Do you want to color with me?" Rachel looked at Marcus. He nodded. Rachel sat in the jump seat across from Lily and accepted a crayon purple, and Lily tore a page from the coloring book and gave it to her. "You can do the butterflies," Lily instructed. "I'm doing the flowers." They colored together at 35,000 feet while the sun set over America and the internet erupted below them, and Marcus Walker watched a 23-year-old flight attendant and his 6-year-old daughter fill in a picture of a garden with colors they chose themselves. His phone buzzed. His mother, Marcus. "I just watched that man's video, the teacher's video. I watched it and I saw my grandbaby on that floor. And I want you to know something. You burn it all down and you build it back better. You hear me? You build it back so no grandmother ever has to watch what I just watched. You promise me." He typed back, "I promise, Mama." Then he put his phone away and picked up a crayon. Green. He started filling in the leaves. "Daddy, you're going outside the lines," Lily said. "Sorry, baby girl." "It's okay. Outside the lines is still pretty." 8:47 p.m. The captain's voice came through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Williams. We're beginning our descent into JFK. We should be on the ground in approximately 25 minutes. On behalf of the entire crew, I want to thank you for your patience today. And I want to say something that isn't in my script. Today was a hard day for a lot of people on this airplane. But I want every passenger to know that what happened in the first hour of this flight does not represent who Skyway Airlines is. The young woman sitting in 2A coloring with crayons right now, she represents who we are. Her bravery, her kindness, her heart. That's the airline I'm proud to fly for. Please fasten your seatbelts. Welcome to New York." Lily looked up from her coloring. "Daddy the pilot said nice things about me." "He did." "Does that mean I was brave enough?" Marcus took his daughter's hand and held it and felt her small fingers squeeze his palm, the way they'd been squeezing Rachel's hand on the floor of a first-class cabin 4 hours ago. "Lily Marie Walker, you were the bravest person on this entire airplane, and I have never been more proud of anyone in my life." She smiled. The gap where her front tooth used to be made the smile crooked and perfect, and absolutely unbreakable. The plane touched down at JFK at 9:12 p.m. Eastern Time. Through the windows, Marcus could see something he hadn't expected. Terminal Light's camera flashes a crowd of people pressing against the gate windows. The story had arrived before they did. Marcus held Lily against his chest and waited for every other passenger to deplane first. He wasn't hiding. He was giving his daughter one more minute of quiet before the world outside that aircraft door swallowed them whole. Rachel stood at the exit, her hands clasped in front of her, watching passengers file past. Some of them looked at her and nodded. Some couldn't meet her eyes. Catherine stopped in front of Rachel with her 2 children gripping her hands. "I'm going to do better," Catherine said. "I don't expect you to believe that, but I'm going to." Rachel nodded. Lily would believe it. She believes everybody. Catherine's face crumpled. She walked off the plane holding her children so tight they complained, and she didn't let go. The businessman who had muttered about people knowing their place walked past without a word. His head was down. His newspaper was rolled under his arm. He had deleted every video from his phone during the flight, as if erasing the footage could erase what he'd done. It couldn't. Tiffany Blake was one of the last off. She stopped in front of Rachel. Her makeup was gone. Her eyes were swollen. She looked like a person who had been famous for 6 hours in the worst possible way. "I don't know how to fix this," Tiffany said. "Start by saying her name," Rachel replied. Tiffany swallowed. "Lily, her name is Lily." "That's a start." Tiffany walked off the plane into a terminal where her face was already appearing on cable news chyrons alongside words like influencer and complicit and bystander. She would learn in the coming weeks that the internet has a long memory and a short supply of mercy, but that was her road to walk, and it started here. 9:18 p.m. The plane was empty now except for Marcus, Lily, Rachel, and Captain Williams, who had come out of the cockpit to stand respectfully near the door. "Mr. Walker." Williams said, "There's a crowd at the gate. Media, about 30 cameras that I can see. There are also representatives from 3 news networks requesting statements. Your legal team is at the gate with security." Marcus looked at Lily. "Baby girl, there are going to be some people with cameras outside. They might be loud. You don't have to talk to anyone. You can hide your face in Daddy's shoulder if you want." Lily considered this. "Are they the good kind of cameras or the bad kind?" Marcus almost smiled. "I think today they're the good kind. Then I don't want to hide. Grandma says walkers don't hide." Marcus picked her up. She wrapped her arms around his neck and her legs around his waist and rested her cheek against his shoulder, the cheek that wasn't bruised and held on. He walked to the aircraft door. Rachel fell into step beside him without being asked. They stepped off the plane together. The jet bridge was lined with Skyway employees, ground crew, gate agents, baggage handlers, maintenance workers. They had gathered on their own. Nobody told them to come. They stood along the walls in their reflective vests and work boots and lanyards. And as Marcus walked past carrying his daughter, they did something he didn't expect. They applauded. Not for him. Clear's throat for Lily. A quiet, steady, respectful applause that rippled down the jet bridge like a wave. Some of them were crying. A woman in a ground crew vest reached out and touched Lily's backpack gently as they passed. The way you touch something precious, and whispered, "You're our girl, baby. You're our girl." Lily lifted her head from Marcus's shoulder and looked at all of them. She waved a small, shy wave with her fingers, and the applause got louder. At the end of the jet bridge, the terminal opened up into chaos. Camera lights hit Marcus's face like searchlights. Reporters surged forward against a security line. Microphones reached toward him like hungry hands. His legal team flanked him immediately. Robert on one side, a communications director named Sandra on the other. Mr. Walker. Mr. Walker, can you confirm the assault on your daughter, Marcus? How do you respond to Donna Kessler's claim of wrongful termination? Mr. Walker, what changes will Skyway implement? Is it true the Department of Transportation is opening an investigation? Mr. Walker, has Lily spoken about what happened? Marcus stopped walking. The crowd went quiet. 40 cameras, 30 microphones, millions of people watching live on networks across the country, and a 6-year-old girl with a bruise on her face looking at all of it with eyes that were scared but open. I'll have a full statement tomorrow at 10 a.m. Marcus said, "Tonight I'm taking my daughter home. She's had the longest day of her life and she needs rest. I'll say one thing now." He shifted Lily's weight and looked directly into the nearest camera. "Today, a woman who works for my company hit my child because she looked at a little black girl and decided she didn't belong in first class. She made that decision in 2 seconds. She didn't check the manifest. She didn't verify the ticket. She didn't ask questions. She looked at my daughter's skin and her clothes, and she decided, every parent watching this right now, I want you to imagine your child. Imagine someone hitting your baby and ripping up their ticket and telling them to crawl. Now imagine that your child is alone. No parent there to protect them. Nobody standing up. That's what happened to Lily today. And it happens to children who look like her every single day, in airports and schools and stores and restaurants, in places where the cameras aren't rolling and the CEO isn't watching. Tomorrow I'm going to announce changes that will make sure it never happens on my airline again. Tonight my daughter needs chocolate cake. I promised her chocolate cake." Lily lifted her head. "You remembered. I always remember my promises, baby girl." The reporters parted. Marcus walked through them with his daughter and his legal team, and Rachel Dunn, who stayed close because she didn't know where else to go, and because Lily's hand had reached back and grabbed her sleeve as they passed through the cameras. A black SUV was waiting at the curb. Marcus buckled Lily into the back seat. Rachel stood on the sidewalk, suddenly unsure. Her overnight bag was still on the plane. She had nowhere to stay in New York. Her return flight was tomorrow afternoon on a Skyway crew rotation that no longer existed because the entire Flight 612 crew had been terminated or suspended. Marcus looked at her. "Rachel, get in the car." "Sir, I don't want to impose. You held my daughter's hand when no one else would. Get in the car." Rachel got in. The SUV pulled away from JFK into the New York night. Lily fell asleep again before they reached the expressway. Her head on Rachel's shoulder this time, her hand still holding her butterfly backpack. Marcus made calls from the front seat, his voice low and constant, the machinery of consequences turning faster with every mile. 10:04 p.m., Marcus's penthouse was quiet. Lily was in bed tucked under a purple comforter with her one-eared stuffed rabbit and a fresh ice pack wrapped in a towel pressed against her cheek. Marcus had carried her from the car to the elevator to the apartment to her room without waking her. He'd taken off her sneakers and placed them by the bed, the crayon doodles facing up. He'd hung her butterfly backpack on the bedpost hook where she liked it. He'd sat on the edge of her bed for 11 minutes watching her breathe. Rachel was in the guest room down the hall, sitting on the edge of an unfamiliar bed in an unfamiliar city, staring at her phone. Her mother had texted 17 times. Her boyfriend had called 4 times. Her sister had sent a video of her niece drawing a picture of an airplane with "Rachel is a hero" written in purple crayon across the top. Rachel called her mother. "Baby, is that you? Are you okay? I saw the news. They're saying you stood up for that little girl. They're saying you're the one who, Mama, I almost didn't. But you did. I almost didn't. I," snorts, "was so scared Greg was going to fire me, and I knew if I lost my insurance you wouldn't. Rachel Lynn Dunn, you listen to me. If you had stayed quiet to save my insurance while a baby was being hurt on that plane, I would never have forgiven you, and I would never have forgiven myself for being the reason." Rachel pressed the phone against her forehead and cried. Her mother listened to her cry and didn't say anything else because sometimes a mother's presence through a phone line is enough. 10:47 p.m. Marcus sat in his office with a glass of water he hadn't touched, and David Chen's video playing on his laptop for the 6th time. Not because he needed to see it again, because he needed to feel it again. He snorts needed the anger to stay hot. He needed it for tomorrow. His phone rang. "Eloise is my grandbaby sleeping. She's out cold, Mama." Ice pack on her face, rabbit in her arms. "What did the doctor say? I have a pediatrician coming first thing tomorrow. The bruise looks bad, but there's no structural damage. She'll heal. Her face will heal. What about the rest of her?" Marcus was quiet. Marcus, that child, went through something today that's going to follow her. She's going to remember what that woman's hand felt like. She's going to remember being on that floor. She's going to remember all those grown people watching and nobody helping. Rachel helped. One person helped out of 300. You want to know what scares me? It's not that it happened, it's that it almost worked. If you weren't who you are, if you didn't own that airline, your daughter would have been dragged off that plane by police and nobody would have cared. Nobody would have known. I know, Mama. So what are you going to do about the children whose daddies don't own the plane? Marcus looked at the video frozen on his screen, his daughter on the floor beads, scattered handprint on her face alone. I'm going to change everything he said, then change everything. And Marcus, get that baby some chocolate cake tomorrow. You promised. 10A. Morning the next morning, Skyway Airlines headquarters, Manhattan. The press conference was standing room only. Every major network, every major newspaper wire services, international outlets, civil rights organizations, aviation industry reporters, and in the front row, 3 people Marcus had personally invited. David Chen, the teacher, clears throat, who recorded the video, Officer Ray Delgado, who had flown to New York on a red-eye at Marcus's request, and Rachel Dunn wearing a new blazer Sandra had bought for her that morning because Rachel didn't own one. Marcus walked to the podium, no notes, no teleprompter. He wore a plain dark suit and a tie Lily had picked out that morning, purple with small butterflies on it. She'd said it was lucky. He was not a man who believed in luck, but he wore it anyway because his daughter's confidence was worth more than any superstition. Yesterday, at 3:52 p.m., Central Time, my 6-year-old daughter Lily boarded Skyway Airlines Flight 612 at Dallas/Fort International Airport. She was an unaccompanied minor traveling with a valid first-class ticket to visit me in New York. She was wearing a yellow sundress and sneakers with crayon drawings on them, and she was carrying a pink backpack covered in butterfly patches. He paused. The room was absolutely still. Within 4 minutes of boarding senior flight attendant, Donna Kessler decided, my daughter did not belong in first class. She did not check the manifest. She did not verify the ticket through our system. She looked at a 6-year-old black girl and made a judgment that had nothing to do with documentation and everything to do with the color of my daughter's skin. Miss Kessler confiscated my daughter's backpack. She tore my daughter's valid boarding pass into pieces and threw them in her face. She grabbed my daughter's arm hard enough to leave marks. She told my daughter to crawl back to economy wear, and I'm quoting, "animals like you belong." And then she slapped my daughter across the face. Marcus's voice cracked on the word face. He stopped, took a breath. The room waited. My daughter is 6 years old. She weighs 47 pounds. She has a missing front tooth and braids with colored beads. She was on her first flight alone, and a grown woman hit her because she didn't look like first class. He gripped the podium. This is not a company problem. This is not an airline problem. This is an American problem. It is a problem that lives in airports and schools and hospitals and courtrooms and grocery stores and every place where someone looks at a child or a woman or a man and decides in 2 seconds that they don't belong. Today I'm announcing the Lilly Protocol effective immediately across all Skyway Airlines operations worldwide. He laid it out. Body cameras for every crew member. A real-time passenger rights reporting system. A zero-tolerance policy for discrimination with automatic suspension pending investigation. Mandatory bias training. 40 hours annually for every employee from baggage handlers to the board of directors. An independent passenger equity oversight board staffed by civil rights attorneys and community advocates. A dedicated hotline that connects to a human being within 60 seconds because no grandmother should ever be put on hold while her grandchild is being hurt. And one final announcement, I'm establishing the Lily Walker Foundation with an initial endowment of $25 million. The foundation's mission is to fight discrimination in travel and public accommodation across the United States. It will fund legal aid for passengers who experience discrimination. It will fund research into bias in the aviation industry. And it will fund education programs in schools, because if we want adults who stand up for each other, we have to raise children who know how. He looked at Rachel in the front row. I want to introduce someone. Rachel Dunn is 23 years old. 3 months ago, she started her first job as a flight attendant with Skyway Airlines. Yesterday, she was the only crew member on Flight 612 who checked the manifest, identified my daughter's valid ticket, and reported it to her supervisor. Her supervisor threatened to fire her. She spoke up anyway. When my daughter was on the floor crying alone, Rachel sat with her and held her hand. Rachel has been appointed Director of Passenger Safety and Dignity at Skyway Airlines. Her first act was helping design the Lilly Protocol. Rachel stood. The room erupted in applause. She nodded once quickly and sat back down before her legs gave out. Marcus looked at David Chen. David Chen is a middle school teacher from Houston. He was sitting in economy class. He was the only passenger out of 300 who recorded what actually happened. His video has been seen by 62 million people as of this morning. David, thank you for pressing record. David raised his hand in a small wave. He looked deeply uncomfortable with the attention. He was a teacher. He was used to being invisible. Marcus understood that he'd built his career on being invisible too. Questions, Marcus said. A reporter stood. Mr. Walker, Donna Kessler's attorney, released a statement this morning claiming she was following standard operating procedures. How do you respond? There is no standard operating procedure that includes slapping a child. If Miss Kessler's attorney can find one in our company manual, I'll resign today. Mr. Walker, the Department of Transportation has announced a formal investigation not just into Skyway, but into industry-wide discriminatory practices. Your reaction, I welcome it. I called for it, and I'll cooperate fully. My airline failed yesterday. If other airlines are failing the same way, we need to know. Mr. Walker, what is Lily's condition today? Marcus reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a piece of paper. He unfolded it and held it up to the cameras. It was a crayon drawing a picture of an airplane with 2 people visible through the windows, a tall brown figure and a small brown figure holding hands. Above the plane, in wobbly 6-year-old handwriting, were the words, "Me and Daddy flying home." She drew this at breakfast this morning, Marcus said right after she ate 2 pieces of chocolate cake, which I promised her, and which her grandmother says is not an acceptable breakfast, and I don't care. The room laughed. It was the first laughter of the morning, and it felt like oxygen. Lily is strong. She's bruised, but she's strong. She asked me this morning why the lady hit her, and I told her the truth. I told her, some people are broken inside, and she asked me if there are more brave people than broken people. And I told her, yes, I need that to be true. I need every person in this room and every person watching to help me make that true. He folded the drawing carefully and put it back in his pocket. Last thing, this story is not about me. I own an airline. I have lawyers and money and a platform. When my daughter was hurt, I had the power to hold people accountable. Most parents don't. Most children don't. The little girl on the next flight, the one whose daddy doesn't own the plane, she deserves the same protection my daughter got. She deserves a Rachel Dunn who speaks up. She deserves a David Chen who presses record. She deserves passengers who say stop instead of reaching for their phones. She deserves a world where a 6-year-old with a valid ticket and a butterfly backpack can sit in her assigned seat without being slapped for it. He stepped back from the podium. Thank you. 3 months later, the Lilly Protocol was adopted by 14 airlines. United, Delta, Southwest, JetBlue, American International carriers followed. The Department of Transportation codified key provisions into federal regulation. Secretary Chen called it the most significant civil rights advancement in commercial aviation in 50 years. Donna Kessler pleaded guilty to misdemeanor assault of a minor. She was sentenced to 200 hours of community service at a children's advocacy center in Dallas and 3 years of probation. At her sentencing, she read a statement. I looked at that little girl and I didn't see a child. I saw what my prejudice told me to see. I have no excuse. I can only try to be different. The judge told her that trying wasn't enough. Doing was what counted. Greg Holloway never worked in aviation again. He took a job managing a warehouse outside Houston. He didn't give interviews. He didn't make statements. He disappeared into the ordinary anonymity of a man who had been given authority and used it to harm a child. Captain Driscoll's investigation resulted in permanent revocation of his senior captain certification. He was offered a reduced role flying domestic cargo routes. He accepted. He hung his wings on the wall of his kitchen where he saw them every morning. He had not yet decided if he'd earned them back. Rachel Dunn's mother responded to treatment. The supplemental insurance Marcus arranged covered a new specialist in Houston who put her on an experimental protocol. 3 months and her numbers were moving in the right direction. Rachel flew to Houston every other weekend to sit with her mother and hold her hand the way she'd held Lily's hand on the floor of Flight 612. David Chen went back to teaching. His students had seen the video. They asked him about it constantly. He told them the same thing every time. I almost didn't record. I almost sat back down. The difference between doing something and doing nothing is 1 second of courage. 1 second. That's all it takes. Tiffany Blake lost 400,000 followers. She deleted her accounts, went silent for 6 weeks, then re-emerged with a new platform focused on accountability and bystander intervention. Her first post was a video in which she said Lily's name 14 times. Some people called it genuine. Some called it performative. The truth was probably somewhere in between. Redemption is messy. It doesn't come with a certificate. Catherine from Seat 1B enrolled her children in a diversity and empathy program at their school. She volunteered at a community center in her neighborhood. She told her daughter every single week the story of the girl on the plane and the mistake Mommy made. Her daughter was 5. She wouldn't fully understand for years, but she would grow up knowing that silence has a cost and that her mother had paid it. Lily Walker turned 7 on a Tuesday in March. Marcus threw her a party in the backyard of their home. Rachel came. David Chen came. Officer Delgado drove up from Dallas with his 2 daughters who immediately became Lily's new best friends. Eloise made a cake with purple frosting and butterfly decorations and a single candle shaped like a number 7. Lily blew it out in one breath. "What did you wish for?" Marcus asked. "Daddy, you're not supposed to tell her. It doesn't come true." Fair enough. Rachel leaned over and whispered, "Can you give me a hint?" Lily cupped her hands around Rachel's ear and whispered back. Rachel's eyes filled with tears, and she laughed at the same time. "What did she say?" Marcus asked. Rachel shook her head. She said she wished that every kid gets a Rachel. Marcus looked at his daughter, 7 years old, new front teeth, growing in fresh beads in her braids, every color of the rainbow, a butterfly backpack hanging on the back of her chair, because some things you don't outgrow. The bruise on her cheek was gone. It had faded through purple to yellow to nothing in the weeks after Flight 612. The skin was smooth and clear and perfect. No mark, no scar, no visible evidence that a grown woman had ever put her hand there. But Lily remembered. She remembered the slap. She remembered the beads hitting the floor. She remembered sitting on the cold aisle carpet, hugging her knees. She remembered whispering, "Daddy said I'm brave," to herself because nobody else was listening. And she remembered Rachel kneeling down and taking her hand and saying, "I'm never going to let anyone hurt you again." She remembered that most of all, 6 months after Flight 612, Marcus went back to flying anonymously on his own airline. Jeans, plain shirt, no entourage. He sat in economy and first class and business class on red eyes and morning shuttles and cross-country overnights. He watched his crews. He watched his passengers. He watched the small moments where character reveals itself, where someone helps with a bag or gives up an armrest or smiles at a child who is nervous about flying. On a Tuesday flight from Chicago to Dallas, he watched a young black boy, maybe 8 years old, walk into first class with a boarding pass and a backpack shaped like a dinosaur. The flight attendant, a woman Marcus had never met, bent down to the boy's level. "Welcome aboard. Can I help you find your seat? I'm in 3A, ma'am." "Perfect. That's a window seat. Best view on the plane. Can I get you something to drink after takeoff?" "Yes, please. Orange juice." "You got it. No questions about the ticket. No suspicion about how he got there. No judgment about his clothes or his skin or his age. Just service. Just dignity. Just a crew member doing her job the way the job was supposed to be done." Marcus leaned back in his seat and closed his eyes and felt something that had been wound tight inside his chest for 6 months finally begin to loosen. Clears throat and snorts. It wasn't fixed. The world wasn't fixed. You don't fix 400 years of assumptions with body cameras and training modules and a $25 million foundation. But you start with one protocol and one brave 23-year-old and one teacher who pressed record and one grandmother who refused to hang up and one 6-year-old girl who planted her crayon-covered sneakers on the floor of a first-class cabin and said, "My grandma says I belong wherever my ticket says I belong." You start there and you don't stop. Marcus opened his phone and texted Lily. She had her own phone now. A birthday gift heavily monitored, mostly used for texting family and taking pictures of bugs. "Hey, baby girl, Daddy's on a plane thinking about you." Her reply came in 30 seconds. A selfie. New braids, rainbow beads, gap-toothed grin, butterfly backpack over one shoulder, and a single word, brave. This story was about a slap, but it was never really about a slap. It was about what happens when the world decides a child doesn't belong and one person decides she does. It was about the 31 people who stayed silent and the one person who spoke. It was about a grandmother who wouldn't hang up, and a teacher who pressed record, and a father who promised chocolate cake and kept his promise. It was about Lily Walker, who was 6 years old and brave enough for all of us. If this story moved, you share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to this channel for more stories that refuse to be silenced. And tell us in the comments, what would you have done on Flight 612? Would you have been one of the 31, or would you have been Rachel? Because the next Lily is out there right now. She's boarding a plane or walking into a store or sitting in a classroom or standing in a line. She's holding a valid ticket and a butterfly backpack. And she's whispering to herself that she's brave.